Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on a Monday, November 27, 2023. It's exactly 4:14 in the afternoon. And this is a continuation of our Friday, November 24th, 2023 session. We went into recess and now we're back into session. And so we're going to move right into our agenda under item D, messages from the governor. Clerk?
Madam President, we have 182 to 190.
Thank you. Any comments from the members? None? Item E, communications from the judiciary. There is none. Item F, communications from the heads of executive departments. Clerk?
We have four, Madam President, 2346 to 49.
Any comments from the members? Item G, communications from the House. Clerk?
Yes, we have 2387 and 88, Madam President.
Comments from the members? None. Item H, communications from the Senate. Clerk?
We have 13 on our agenda, 23309 to 321.
Comments from the members? None. Moving on. Item I, communications from the Washington delegate. There is none. Item J, unfinished business. There is none. Item K, pre-file bills, initiatives, local bills, and resolutions. And now I will recognize the author of the legislations. Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam President. Under item K, we have three Senate bills. First is 23-50 to amend 2 CMC subsection 4335E, allowing flexibility in homestead requirements due to significant investments, infrastructural deficiencies, reasonable justifications, and natural disasters, and to provide for the issuance of quitclaim deeds under certain conditions and for other purposes. Next, if I may, Madam President.
You may proceed.
Thank you. I have Senate Bill 20-51 to amend 1 CMC subsection 2708C to strengthen public benefits and contributions of public land leases and for other purposes. And last, Senate Bill number 23-52 to amend 1 CMC subsection 28002, 28004, and 28032 to certify non-emergency medical transport ambulances and for other purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Magofnia, for your introduction of your bills. Moving on to item L, introduction of bills, local bills, and resolutions, initiatives. None. Moving on to item M,
Madam
recognize
President,
Senator Jude Hofschneider.
if I'm in order, I would like to formally introduce a Senate joint resolution, and it's number 2307. And that is to respectfully request the governor of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands to advocate for the increased security of the tourism industry while promoting economic recovery through the promulgation of the CNMI Economic Vitality and Security Travel Authorization Program, EVS.TAP, and other measures. I so introduce.
Thank you, Senator Jude Hofschneider, for your introduction of SJR 23-07. Moving on
And
to
if I may,
item,
Madam President.
go ahead, Senator
Yeah,
Hofschneider.
Yes, and this is co-introduced by Senators Frank Cruz, Carl King Neighbors, and Dennis Mendiola. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hofschneider. Moving on to item O, resolution calendar. There is none. Item P, bill calendar. I now recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam President. Under item P, we have a motion to overwrite the governor's message number 23-166 pertaining to section 601C for utilities. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, floor leader. Do I hear a second for a
Second.
motion to override section 601 under utilities of the governor's veto message, and has been seconded by Senator Carl Neighbors? Any discussions from the members? Recognize Senator Neighbors.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a brief history on this. When I spoke to the body, the Senate body, after the conferees were done with the conference committee and brought back the product to their respective houses, I told the body that there were a lot of concessions, a lot of compromises that needed to be made. Speaking for myself and the second senatorial, we were asked to give up over $500,000 of ARPA to fund 24 employees. We tried our best to keep them on the general fund side, but we had to bring them on locally. That's something that we couldn't address. But one thing that we made very clear during the conference committee with the conferees of the House and the Senate was what also made clear when the fiscal affairs members came to the island of Tinian was that what will not be open for negotiation is when and if the money is moved over from ARPA to absorb these employees, the second senatorial will lose its opportunity and its option, its availability to use ARPA to cover down for any operational shortfalls. And one of the agreements that were made on behalf of both House and Senate conferees were that we would specifically put language in the, not only will we put language in the concurrent resolution to include Tinian and Rhoda's utilities, but that we will specifically put language in the Budget Act to ensure that exactly what we would not be able to cover was covered, to ensure the executive line departments on the island of Tinian and Rhoda would not have to look for where they were going to come up with their operational funding. Now, I asked our legal counsel to do some research with the Constitution, and it's very clear who is responsible for the custodianship, who's the authority, which is the elected mayors of both islands, but it doesn't give any guidance as to whether or not the islands of Tinian and Rhoda themselves are going to fund the operational needs of these line departments. I would go on to further say that in the event that they were supposed to, then it's our obligation in the legislature to ensure that those activities are funded. None of this went on, and we went ahead and put language in the provision, covered Saipan, Tinian, Rhoda, and Northern Islands. What I'm asking here today from this body is to continue on with the vote that they casted on that day. That all the conferees agreed upon is a language to ensure that these line item departments don't go dark. I went down to the House Ways and Means, and I tried to tell them in no uncertain terms what the situation on Tinian was. I spelled out the timelines for DCCAA and the Department of Labor. There will be more departments to come. And I ask of you guys for your consideration and your vote to override this section. I yield back.
Thank you, Senator Carl Neighbors, for your comments. Any other members? I recognize Senator Francisco Cruz.
Thank you, Jesus Marcia, Madam President. Madam President, Guluki Uno na masyati regional member but alternate member of the conference, and I witnessed both sides of the House agree to this, to what Senator Carl just mentioned. And I don't understand why the governor is stating that giving him 100% programming is like, it doesn't make sense for him. But if there is funding, I believe we don't need to give him 100% reprogram, because we will just give the funding for the utility. And not only that, he had a message. He said message here when he submitted the budget that the $1.8 million that was, I believe, that was put under public programs is for utility. And I believe that he can use that. And I'm not sure how much exactly for the entire Sinomai, but there is a message that the two countries, both the House and the Senate, have mentioned that to exhaust the revolving fund, and I believe everyone knows that not all revolving fund is flexible to be utilized. Some revolving fund are strictly for the usage of, for example, if they're giving budget by federal government, it has to be used under that particular section or department. Otherwise, the the federal government will not continue to provide them with the funding if they don't use that revolving for their operation or for field. And the reason why I support it 100% because I know there's money coming in, reimbursement. I think they can use that reprogramming authority to reprogram money to subsidize utility. So I ask that we move forward and support the override. And because if we don't do this, personally, I'm irresponsible if I let this go. And I don't want to hear that even the legislature agree to what the governor did by between the Section 601 on utility. So with that, again, Madam President, there's funding under independent program, $1.8 million. He sent a message stating that 1.8 will be utilized for government for committing that for utilities. Although I believe his message stating that although it's not complete enough for that, but that will be a start to subsidize utilities for government agency. Otherwise, I don't know. But if government departments are shut down because there's no power, enough that we under austerity measure on government employees, and if government departments are shut down, it will be an austerity measure for providing services to the general public. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. I now recognize Senator Dennis Mendiola.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'd just like to stress the same sentiments for in terms of the first senatorial district. The stress that I have here is that this is the second time really that we have a veto that really deals with the municipalities of Rota and Tinian. And it's starting to get frustrating because we are granted the veto power here. However, it seems like we're kind of tap dancing around the administration. And I think it's time for us to start exercising this right. When the conferees met, the agreement was made, and we all voted in favor of that budget to include the language that that spells out the utility costs. It seems like everybody's trying to backpedal off this agreement, and it's kind of frustrating. So I share my sentiments with the Tinian delegation, so that we can represent to our people, because should we fail to cover this or have a language that puts the utilities in a bill and we go lights out, I'm sure that everybody's going to come to us to figure out where can we find the funds. So this is the provision and this is the agreement that we had when we had that conference committee. So thank you, Ayu.
Thank you, Senator Mendiola, for your comments. Any other members online that would like to make a comment on the motion to override Section 601?
Madam President,
I recognize Senator Jude Hoff-Schneider.
first of all, thank you for calling this session, resumption of this session today. I do feel the sentiment of the three senators that have spoke earlier, Senators Caro Neighbors, Cruz, and Mendiola, on the matter before us, the question before us. Historically, when we do pass budget appropriation, we explore the possibility or the option of having the executive branch or the central government take care of the utilities, simply because the central government is the funding is controlled by the Secretary of Finance, and they manage the disbursement of payments for obligations of the respective line agencies. I would like to think that this exercise today is same thing as treating one section here, or rather there in Saipan, a department that is aligned with a department on Tinian that is part of the line agencies. I would like to think and would like to believe that we treat them the same. And as what was mentioned earlier by the Chairman Carl Neighbors during his deliberation of the budget, that was very much he couldn't have become any clearer as to what the agreement with. And I understand the governor has exercised his authority, his veto authority, because of uh, the questionable request by the legislature. But at the end of the day, it was the very same body that actually blessed that budget authority that we sent over for approval. And again, it's before us for a consideration. I think moving forward, I believe that we need to take a look at this item in the coming days, whatever or however this thing pans out after today's session, and really identify the true responsibility of the sectors, several sectors of the agency, the line agencies in the CNMI government. Because even if we are separated by waters, we are still part of the CNMI as CNMI government. So this is something that it's not going to go away. I know it's a difference in viewing it and in philosophy and perhaps views and policy, but at the end of the day, we need to circle back and say that we indeed bless this provision, and that we should move forward and find an amicable way to address this thing moving forward. I yield back, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hofschneider. Any other comments online from the senators? None. I recognize now Senator Karina Magofnia.
Thank you, Madam President. My dear colleagues, I hear every single one of your sentiments and your requests for consideration on this override. This motion before us to override the governor's veto places us all in a double-edged sword situation, so to speak, right? Because regardless which way we vote, there will be disappointments and there will be disagreements. But that's a given because this is part of our job. And I see and understand both sides of the arguments and justifications. But at the end of the day, I have to make a conscious decision, as do you, that is sound and rational. But most importantly, render a vote that would give our people a sense of hope, stability, and confidence that we as elected leaders are doing everything within our abilities and authority to find amicable and diplomatic solutions for the betterment of all. Yes, it is important to acknowledge that the mutual agreement made between the House and Senate conferees during the budget conference regarding Section 601 for utilities. It is equally and critically important to note how the conferees arrived at the mutual agreement. And that is with the assumptions and understanding that the House will introduce several revenue generating bills, which they have done so, to help supplement and fill the gaps of the budgetary shortfalls so that our government could minimize the reduction in hours and continue to provide the public services and programs with minimal interruptions and cutbacks. As of today, these revenue generating bills have yet to be enacted into law. Additionally, I'm not sure when or if these bills will even pass both the House and the Senate and, enacted into law by the governor. With that said, well, for this reason, I'm sorry. I am deeply concerned that the revenues projected from these bills will not be realized within the time frame we had hoped to see. So with that said, I cannot in good conscience transfer the additional financial obligations onto the executive branch given the current status of the revenue generating bills pending. But before I close and render my vote, I would like to close on a more positive note. The Thanksgiving holiday has given many of us time to reflect and be grateful for all the things that we do have and that are important to us. If I may, I would like for us to remember that we as a people have deep compassion and the sense to do the right thing, despite our political affiliations and differences in ideologies and views. It is innate. It is who we are as Chamorros and Carolinians. And so, in the spirit of Inafamolik, Inakomprendi, Inagoflie, and Inagwaiza, I respectfully ask that we come together as one and practice the spirit of Un Marianas. Please note that prior to making this statement, I did reach out to several department heads. I did do my due diligence to get some information so that I can make the sound and rational decision that I am making today. And after having communications with agencies such as Department of Labor, DCCA, the Aging Office here on Saipan, um, I can assure you that they are already taking actions as we speak to help our sister island of Tinian. I've been provided a purchase order from the aging office to show me that they are taking, actions to help pay for the utilities for Tinian so that their office on Tinian will not be disconnected. And so the message that I would like to send to the people of Tinian is, por favor, nafan contento dan tranquilo hamzu. So no matter what, despite our differences, either ways, man numeluhit todo tempo. And I am confident that this administration will not turn its back on you or Rhoda for that matter when it comes down to the health, safety, and welfare of our people. It's just not in us to do that, despite our differences. So, with that said, Madam President and members, I am ready to vote, and I think you pretty much have an idea of where my sentiment is. But I hope, and I hope that we can continue to work together as colleagues, despite our difference in the vote that we are going to take today. Thank you, Madam President Sidusmasi and Giliso.
Thank you, Senator Magofnia. I now recognize Senator Carl Neighbors.
Thank you, Madam President. I think it's important that we parse out some of the statements that were just said. Cherry picking data. So, yes, correct. There's always going to be parts that you're going to negotiate for. Correct. There was an agreement because of the addition of $9.1 non-existent million that was on a tax rider that was unconstitutional is why we had to dip into GHLI and Medicaid to begin with. Whose was that? Was that Tinian's? Was that Senate's? That came from the House. We had to remedy that. Let's talk about abdicating whose responsibility, the power of the purse. They went ahead and passed the budget. There was a deficit of 1.1 after the concurrent resolution. You want to tell the people of Tinian, na tranquilamzo, tell us to wait. You came down there, Madam Floor. You came down there to Tinian and you heard the mayor. You heard all of the ways, the different ways that we help out the RDHs. You heard all of the testimony of all the resident director heads. Sat there for 3 days. And we're going to talk about power and how the central government should not have to be responsible for that. And because of these taxes, because of the failures, so I would argue, of the House in the product that they provided to the Senate, now Tinian has to be the one to be patient. I ask people watching. I ask my counterparts in the House. I ask Madam Floor Leader, put yourselves in my shoes. We were the only municipality that they went through a fine-tuned comb through all of our ARPA. And did we complain? No, we gave every document. Why? To show everybody what we had, that we were up against it. And still, they took it. No problem. But now here, to the people of the Sinamay, you're going to tell us to be patient. We have the military. Everybody talks about divert and all this money coming to Tinian. First of all, that money, as Madam President, you well know, doesn't hit the Sinamay immediately. It definitely doesn't come to Tinian, right? Immediately. So the very municipality that's the focal point of divert and all of the other military expansion, you're going to frustrate. Tell me how this fits into the narrative. How does this be rebuilding trust? You guys want to talk about transparency? After I went to the house, there were so many phone calls from so many people telling me to stop the override. What could we give you? How much money can we offer you for you to step down? Guy Pasensya? I'm sorry, Madam President. I yield my time. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Senator Carl. I now recognize Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Life Flow Leader ni molig zomo sentimento ni istige mas molig iga inapamulig galungi itat among ita ni legislator sa ginigi legislature sa ipolitika tanaswa tamunazan tada si sota pa obligasyon ta pa ta judaji intermente to maraunas India ginigi latcha man we've been very diplomatic. We never opposed to any request from the administration. Ja tamana linga si Sento Caro gipapa golokyo u faisina i conference gi house including our vice president pudejima defend i position i DPS dan i DPMs about 5 gi DPMs about 100 and some thousand DPS about 15 I believe and 400 some thousand half a million lo machulia is manai mayor no titaken no manajuda and chulia sun tinya no noi. Not only that, the Commissioner for the Department of Safety Lengana Tauza Academy Paguna year 2024. Lo there is. How can Tinian recruit now when they defend those positions? There's a lot of activity going to be happening in the coming month, years because of the divert. And there's a lot of projects going to be happening down there. I don't know what's going to happen to the island of Tinian when we have shortfall in DPMs and DPS to enforce and to provide services if there's a crisis happen that occur down there. Like I said, we've been very diplomatic. But for the sake of the island of Saipan, because I mentioned during a GPUTC joint hearing i House and Senate na usang ni congressman na doon na por favor tapa na respeta gito ta precinct basta manentalo sa toda na manentalo. As a matter of fact, na sa lapis sa lapi federal jajan ginun on request jamar pebo pes swetemo. All right, request and they give you, then you're very fortunate to have that. It's not us to decide. It's those that are given to administer that no funding. Makontra. Lo na make sure na tibi kontra zon saipan sa ipalabraw tilek ko na tuna so tagi bastan sa Jose no lo I'm very sincere from what I said na mga mata pa na kontra sa lugar di tanamoli kis latta mo sempe bulano hold up gi exhibition publiko ne za usupot tay $15 million for the sake of Saipan projects zalek ko na lebita sa new final na debido ga upfront money to begin with the project no Gwasya question no paisin lo tio na controversy sa ti satisfet suzu gi apa masangoni ni ji tres gini mo na lo I'm very concerned lo I don't want to delay project ne lo man mambuto do 15 million para bejuraji tapanado na sa what if Saipan boom no is the economy no rise then it's good for Tinan on road because this is one kamu ma lo man mabito 20,000 na Jama papaisin ng babincheck no tamano ni po maregla no yan those are the things na ang tapana company no tapanagang masya this is the separate no branches of government law that's what we've been doing no we're calling in one another and to make sure that we're we're helping no one another no because for the sake of the Commonwealth no economy lo ano natin 20,000 versus 15,000 is support tama that's very pagone I've been very diplomatic, but to continue to do that to the island of Tinian and is a tipagosti. I'm not here because of for me. I'm here because I'm representing the entire no people of Tinian and including the Sinamay. That's what we're here for, to hear one another and to make sure that we address critical issues, no? Lo teji patavan sige man we're very worried because I'm confident that the administration will take care of Saipan because of course it's from Saipan. But like I mentioned earlier, that we're under austerity measure and the moment that the department power are being cut by CUC because we're not paying, no? And I don't blame CUC to cut because they mentioned that they need collection to continue to buy fuel for them to operate and give services. And if they start cutting down, I don't think it's appropriate to allow our government employees to go and work without power. I don't think they can be able to operate computer, no, unless there's a generator at their office and they can be able to turn on generator and help our people, especially critical public services that they man deliver na. Believe me, at the end of the day, it's gonna come to us. That's why I said I'm irresponsible if I don't exercise my constitutional authority to override these things. Ungong na lang yan. No need to override. We'll find a way. Why na ma-override? I mean, ma-veto is now to find a way. We can just leave it alone and find a way. Because even with 100%, we gave already 50, 25, 50, 75, then they still want 100%. So I'm assuming the 100% is to tap all those that can be tapped and reprogram to give the to pay for the utility because that's very, very critical still public services sa danti ta silbi publiko. Tada balita gini, man siga man masawani, sigita man malago for what? That's what we're here for. And I really appreciate saying that we here to and I understand we have to agree to disagree but we have to make the ultimate the sound decisions sa kumatalit gosti zaman makwida si leng lanya ang si legislature magriya ne tamano is ulili gizona message na if that one is not override is going that part of the veto is gonna be appropriate to I don't know for me maybe that needs to come here for us to reappropriate it to whatever he needs. So those are the things no istam asang wanita na antin exercise medyo pon override then he's gonna go to the next whatever. I don't know if that one is giving me the full authority to just give it to an business unit that is not approved by the budget. So those are the things. I'm not here to build animosity with the administration. We're very, very patient to, because like I said, at the end of the day, even we're not doctors or teacher or professor or specialists, at the end of the day, whatever decision we make, we're the blame. So that's why we need to make a right decision whether we want to override or not. But for me, I think we need to do this. Because like I said, I keep following. It's not that I'm following, even though it's not good, but I care for the island of Saipan. Imagine $97 million worth of EDA. I feel bad because later on I found out that they did prepared those information that's going to be provided to OPD. But they're the one who didn't come down because the mayor was informed by EDA personnel from the mainland that you cannot request for the municipality cannot request. It has to be the state. So I think they just went there for formality, but they didn't continue and submit. But never forget about it. It's already done. No, it's already done. I support Saipan. I vote for the 15 million, but when they vetoed the 20 million, I said, this is enough, man. We cannot continue to go like this. We cannot continue to go like this. We need to sit down and talk and find ways to resolve whatever. I don't want to have built any differences or whatever or animosity. We want to come together and work for the people. I yield back, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cruz, for your comments. Any other members? I recognize now Senator Dennis Mendiola.
Just real quick, Madam Press, and I think we're missing the point here. And first off, Nafamalik, I'm all for that. When I ran, I think when we all ran, we decided to come to the table and kind of work together and figure out a solution to a lot of our problems, especially coming into this 23rd legislature, we're faced with just financial crisis. So it doesn't matter how we spin this. There's going to be issues from here forward. But in terms of agreeing or coming up with solutions to that's the point, is that we put it in the budget provision so that there's protection. If we veer away from that at any point, if we frustrate the administration or if there's disagreement, the agreements can always be just voided. Any word of mouth, any word of agreement can be just voided. But when we put it in a legislative document and make it legal, it's a mandate that it needs to be, the municipalities of Rhode and Tinian both be helped financially in terms of utilities. So for me, if we're going to work together with the administration, just leave the provision there and let's figure out a way to find funding for utility. There was an article in the paper that there was $22 million of reimbursements. We just passed $15 million to push projects for EDA. I'm sure there's ways where we can just find ways to offset these utility costs. It's not like Rhode and Tinian generate revenue like Saipan does, but nonetheless, it is our responsibility to make sure that we take care of the municipalities because it's still a part of the CNMI. So I just wanted to point that out. And again, Flor, I get you, and I feel your frustration, and I also feel your pressure. But today is really about the municipalities, ensuring the municipalities are taken care of, and we don't drop the ball. And then, what are we as what are we to go back to our constituents and say that, oh yeah, we just killed the utilities for the municipality? Don't worry, we'll figure it out. This is us telling our municipalities when they elected us that we're gonna make sure that it's taken care of. So that's where we stand on this matter. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Dennis Mendiola. Any other comments from the members? Recognize Senator Karina Magofnia.
Thank you, Madam President. And colleagues, once again, I do hear you guys, okay? I really do. And all emotions aside, I want to be clear that, me arriving to this decision has nothing to do with anyone calling or influencing me. Please know that, like I said, on Thanksgiving Day, I was messaging people, emailing people, trying to get information for myself, because I've always been the kind of person that, yes, I listen to people for what they have information to share with me, but I also rely a lot on data. Okay, that's just how I make my decisions. I'm data driven. And when I was assured by the Secretary of DCCA, the Department of Labor Secretary, and the Director of Office of Aging, he even sent me a copy of the PO. That to me was enough to know and have confidence that manonggisu na ita na klasin to ni ngayan. Esto sangan na despite the offer I differentiata gi politika pero offer esta monodzen en gi but tu hongi na I gobyerno pari administrasyon puro masota za magahi na puro mauto di candid gitatinian. I just really don't believe that, because I don't see that as who we are as a people. So I am basing my trust and confidence on who we are as a people, and I don't think I really don't believe that it would get to that point. Whenever it comes to our people's safety, health and welfare, especially with the first responders. It would be a detriment, and honestly, this would look really, really bad on the governor should he even allow that to happen. And so I don't think he's that, you know, I don't think he would take that risk and allow that to happen. So I'm basing my my faith in that, and I still, I have hope that we can still come together and find a way, an amicable and diplomatic way to help our people in that aspect. I completely respect your sentiments, every single one of you. And as I said, I am basing my decision based on the information that I received on Thanksgiving Day. And so, with that, Madam President, thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Senator Magofnia. I now recognize Senator Neighbors.
Thank you, Madam Press. And Madam Floor, if I may, no, um, I respect where you're coming from and the timeline that you're providing. I also find it curious that it coincides with my timeline. Only after word got out that I was going to go speak to Ways and Means was there an effort by the executive branch, the governor, to even reach out to the mayor. Four, no less than four letters were sent to the Secretary of Finance unanswered. I literally had to go testify and tell people, tell the CNMI, we were on the doorstep of closure. At that point in time, I even told them, yes, Walter, the Secretary of DCCA already gave assurances to Tinian that the prepaid wouldn't go out. But we do have still an issue with the gymnasium, right? And there's arrears there, and I told them that. So we're fixing the problem, and I get where you're coming from, but our problem wasn't even close to fixed until it became an issue, until the house was on fire. And I'm sitting here yelling like a fire, like the fire alarm. The letters they didn't do anything. So I respect like where you're coming from and saying, hey, I just don't believe that that's happening. Well, okay, if I used your logic, we'd be done, because I literally had to stand on a soapbox and listen and yell to whomever would listen that our power was about to go out. That's all I'm gonna say. So I respect where you're coming from, but please use that same logic and apply it to where I'm coming from, because it works both ways.
Short recess, please. Thank you, everyone. We're back from that short recess. Any other comments from the members? I will make my comments before we take a vote. Thank you, Senators, for expressing your sentiments regarding the override this afternoon, the motion to override Section 601 under Utilities from the Governor's message dated September 30, 2023. Let me reflect on some materials of significance of why. And I thank you, Senator Cruz, for talking about the $1.8 million of independent programs money that is available. And rightfully so. Why would there be a veto if there is a $1.8 million available under independent programs to pay for the utilities of the respective municipalities? And so the FY24 Conference Committee for both House and Senate agreed that the utilities expenses will be under the central government. We must mean and hold what we say on these agreements. We are elected officials. We come together to address the finances of the government, its operational budget for fiscal year 2024. And we made that agreement. And the product came out to be under Conference Committee Report number 23-03, dated September 23, 2023, House Bill 23-66, HS1, SS2. It became a law that was signed by the governor as House Bill 23-66, HS1, SS2, CCS1, signed into law on September 30, 2023 for FY24 CNMI budget. The issue at hand are programs under the executive branch, line departments and programs, extensions from the central government here on Saipan to the municipalities of Rota and Tinian, and that therefore there must be efforts initiated to identify possible funding for utilities, such as federal grants under allowable local administrative expenses allocations. Thank you, Senator Magofnia, for sharing the purchase order. Though we don't see it, I'm not sure if it's a purchase order or a purchase requisition that was given to you, but we'll leave it at that. And hopefully that purchase order is approved for that particular extended department on the island of Tinian and possibly Luta to pay for the utilities. And let me read the language of the product of both houses when we went into conference committee. Under Section 601 Utilities, the conferees agreed to amend the House version, subsection A, and accept the Senate version that added a new subsection C that reads as follows. Except as provided in subsection C, the CUC monthly utility billings for all departments as Section A under Section C, for all departments and agencies, shall be paid by the central government after all the funds in the general revolving accounts are exhausted. Revolving accounts. Yes, for the people of the Commonwealth. To be truthful and transparent to you all, we have a long list of revolving accounts that none of you, the public, have ever seen. There is monies in these revolving accounts. On the same conference committee report, C, except for the judicial branch and legislative branch, all utilities, including the municipalities of Rota, Tini, and Saipan, and the Northern Islands, shall be paid by the central government, provided that any shortfall of utility payments of the judicial branch and legislative branch shall be paid by the central government. This is the product of the conference committee. To further the argument and the evidence to the people of this Commonwealth as we address the issue of all municipalities pursuant to the agreement of the conference committee product. Under the Constitution, Article 2, Legislative Branch, C, Section 7, Action on Legislation by the Governor. A bill or an item, section or part of a bill vetoed by the governor may be reconsidered by the legislature The legislature shall have 60 days from the receipt of the governor's veto message in the House of Origin of the veto bill, item, section, or part of a bill to reconsider the veto legislation. Today is November 27. The deadline of 60 days is November 29, 2023. We are acting based on our powers accorded to us by our CNMI Constitution. And to further the separation of branch of government, checks and balance between the executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial branches. Man ma-entrega niyan no, na pudet. Tagsisisi pa og gipresente na manera, and we shall not sway from that. Separation of powers. To add more, I myself, frankly, I got tired. I got very tired. Zadzas zu mamaisin. Informasyon po di Fengkas Marianas. Para tafan honesto ni publiko. Sa konto di empleyang gobernamento man ma-reduce niya work hours. Tamensyon na po revolving fund account bula sa lapi. Fan manhonggi toto Marianas na bula sa lapi gi revolving fund accounts. Manggaygi Fengkas gi. Mga man madagi. We invoke FEMA, Freedom of Information Act. Headline in newspaper. Elect niya. FEMA documents review $367.4 million had been obligated as federal share for $493.3 million in eligible projects. Matus testing ng informasyon. Simpus din na mathematics. Zang ginunsuli sa lapig in estina leblu. Za martarabira tati sistema reimburso. Natura no nanalo tati no nasa lapig at leblu ni. No? Parewa zang ginito mo checking account pat savings. Anon adzo i leblu ni i lumu o ito mo savings ganyan na account. Gibanko faway. Zang ginestaw rukoy sa lapi. Siyempre nanalo tati sa lapi no. Ganyan na account gibanko faway. Sa tipong pega gato gibanko fawam. Logic and no? And reasonable. Mala tafangwentus pago for transparency mas. Usangan o sunzo mananga por informasyon. Con todo y 25% para man retiraw. Esta mas que 2 meses na informasyon. Zangin mangekwentusit na tada sa lapi. Pes ganyan mamanoy sa lapi ni pafan mapasi 25% para man retiraw. Mano no na boksa na matutsuli sa lapi. Muna ano zo email gi Monday, September 18, 2023. Mamamay sinzo informasyon. Gin opisina ni finance. Ganyan mamano sina sa lapi. Data na klaro huzong gi publiko. Mano na boksa ni matutsuli sina Fengkas. Sa siga ta hungo kada dia na tada sa lapi. September 18 ano na email. Estigi follow up. October 28, 2023. E-response, thanks for the follow-up. Ganyan ni Secretary ni Finance. I am pending the final reprogramming activity from OMB for FY 2023. As for FY 24, I will share the reprogramming for Q1 that anticipates payment only through December 31st. I will provide the copy as soon as I receive it on Monday. Pinasensya? Adit na pinasensya. Malofan Monday, mapus mamatu 2 semana. Mina 3 follow-up. November 13, 2023. Thanks for checking in. I am copying Special Assistant Management and Budget, Vicky Villagomez, on this request. Please note that due to the blackout and closeout of FY 2022, Munis has experienced issues with its budget ledger. I believe OMB is doing manual verifications of all budget transactions. I will let you know once I get an update. Kumasoso ni Leblon Marianas, Toto Marianas. Sistema tabibire tati pare manual reconciliation. Nibula sa lapi ma-invest ki sistema, mizon. Destapago na momento tisinya ta resibi. Kwanto gimagay na Fengkas tagugoti. Pago na ani. Binatungam sa ni publiko. So ngan todo si man ma-approach. Mungay overwrite. Mungay overwrite. Besangan, iminagay. Usangani go bet no pago na ani. Esta kakantua pabifan sopina bangko. Para informasyon sa lapi, Toto Marianas. Ini po sa stige. Taja sa tiempo patafanan nangga. Para na yan, ni para tatungo gimagay. Mano na istaw ni manggagay gibandan sa lapi. Da para ta susteni mo na estina Marianas. Da ta natungi publikon Marianas, kwanto gimagay sa lapi niya. Da por hafa na resto na pohon masasapit. Taja gini differential, taja gini politikat. Debbie, tafan honesto. Debbie, tafan honesto gi publiko. Babay leblo, sangan todo huzong, da nalii Toto Marianas, mano ni manggagay na istaw. I have no further comments. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Babauta, Senator Cruz,
Yes.
Senator Hofschneider,
Tunggan.
Senator King Neighbors,
Yes.
Senator Magofnia,
No.
Senator Manglonia Donald, Senator Manglonia Paul, Senator Mendiola,
Yes.
Senator Babauta, Madam President,
Yes.
Madam President, 5 members voting yes, 1 no, 3 absent.
With 5 members voting yes, 1 no, and 3 absent, we need 2/3 to successfully pass the motion to override the governor's veto on section 601 under utilities. Therefore, this vote to override did not pass the Senate. It failed. Moving on to item Q. Short recess, please. We're back from that short recess. Moving on to item Q of the agenda, petitions, memorials, and miscellaneous communications. Clerk?
Madam President, we have 4 on agenda, 23-102 to 105.
Any comments from the members? Item R under announcements. Any announcements from any of the senators? None? Moving on to item S, I now recognize the floor leader for the adjournment of the session.
Thank you, Madam President. I offer a motion to adjourn this session, subject to the call of the president. Thank you.
Second.
There is a motion to adjourn this session. It has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays, this session is hereby adjourned. Thank you, senators.